If you're remotely familiar with Castlevania, whether as a fan of the Netflix series or the games, then you might have heard of the subgenre known as Metroidvania. But what is a Metroidvania? Well, it can be defined as a subgenre of action-adventure games, which is usually defined by non-linearity and utility-gated exploration. In Aria of Sorrow, you take the role of Soma Cruz, a high school exchange student who came to see the eclipse with his childhood friend. Through circumstance, he'll need to navigate to Dracula's castle and find a way to escape. That's the general gist of it anyway. The game's gonna have you go through every corridor of Dracula's castle. Each new location offers a different aesthetic while still retaining the gothic horror feel the series is known for. In fact, these trio of GBA Castlevanias do an amazing job of setting the tone for a small handheld. Since Aria of Sorrow was released when the SP was just fresh on the market, the pixels don't look more saturated than Ghibli AI photos. The color and look is mixed just oh so perfectly. Nothing is too bright or dark, and each area of the castle all feel distinct from one another. Speaking of, movement in this game is no different than the previous two Castlevanias. Though you lose out on the dash from Harmony of Dissonance, the levels are made to account for it. Even in the early game, I've never felt that it took too long to get from point A to B. In fact, these shortcuts are just as plentiful and useful as they ever were. And the controls are wicked smooth. Castlevania fans are always praying for excellent mid-air turns. It's just immaculate. Avoiding attacks can also come just as easy. You can backdash and slide, so you never feel overwhelmed when taking on enemies. Now, Soma Cruz himself is capable of a few things to deal with them. He can equip various weapons, each with their own attack speed and range. There's tons of variety and it feels fun to pick a weapon you like. Furthermore, Soma can find equipment throughout the game and equip it in order to boost his stats. Killing creatures grants XP, and you'll need enough to level up, increasing your stats even further. And it doesn't just stop there. Soma also has the ability to obtain the souls of creatures that he defeats, giving him new powers. While the chance to attain them is luck chance, it's not to the point where it's impossible. There's 4 types of souls you can obtain: Bullet, Guardian, Enchanted, and Ability Souls respectively. Bullet Souls are the equivalent of Castlevania sub-weapons and come in a variety of attacks. Guardian Souls are summons that help you out in combat. Enchanted Souls range from the ability to walk underwater to extra stats. And last, but not least, Ability Souls grant you new abilities such as the double jump, which are usually obtained from defeating bosses. Of course, all of these fun options are segmented throughout the game, which brings us to our next talking point: progression. Progression in Aria of Sorrow follows the traditional Metroidvania formula of navigating through each new segment of Dracula's castle. You can check where you are with the select button to bring up the map at all times. Exploration is the name of the game as you go from point A to B. There's new enemies to figure out, loot to attain, and save rooms to find that'll restore you back to full health. Do be sure to find those save rooms when you can. If you're to ever die, you're sent right back to the title screen. Naturally, you're still going to be learning the ropes, so taking damage is a given. Luckily, there are ways to mitigate this. You can hopefully find some health potions dropped by enemies, a bit RNG sure, but it's better than nothing. Or, later on, you'll be given access to the shop run by the GOAT himself, Hammer. This American military man will offer you a wide array of items for gold. As such, it's easy to stock up on any potions and even equipment if you find yourself lacking. More than that, you can sell any old equipment you aren't using either. Of course, he is located at the very entrance of the castle, so you might be pressed thinking you'll have to backtrack, but thankfully we can mitigate this with these warp rooms scattered throughout the castle. With these, you can warp to any other warp room as you'd like. Of course, you'll have to discover them first, but it really alleviates any backtracking you'd otherwise have to do. Speaking of, you'll be backtracking quite a bit, but that's mainly for the purposes of discovering new areas once you defeat a prospective boss. As I've said before, Ability Souls give Soma new abilities which are also used to access new areas he normally couldn't before. In my opinion, the game's biggest strength and why people declare it to be one of the best Castlevanias has to be the progression. Now, in comparison to other Metroidvanias, it's more or less the same, yes, but if we're comparing it to the list of Castlevania games with the same system, then it's a different story. I won't consider the DS games in this, for now mainly, as I've yet to play them. Plus, I want to talk about this in the context of the games that were available at the time. But I digress. Aria of Sorrow combines several aspects pulled from its predecessors. Circle of the Moon and Harmony of Dissonance both utilized a power system that you also had to grind to collect. However, those were fewer in quantity than the plethora of souls in Aria of Sorrow. Moreover, it is much similar to Symphony of the Night and also had a magic system, but those were about button combinations. Each of these games, to its core, are similar in gameplay, but I believe what helps Aria of Sorrow is the pacing. Soma is not nearly as slow as Nathan nor as fast as Justi. Funny enough, he's about in the middle ground. Despite that, the game never felt like it was taking too much time and it didn't feel like a chore to navigate backwards. Discovering new powers is always going to happen, and you can easily experiment to your liking. Eventually, you're rewarded with the ability to continually dash so long as you don't hit anyone. At that point, the entire castle is yours to explore for the remainder of the game. They give you this around the end of the game, but at that point it's mainly for backtracking purposes. I know people enjoy blazing through areas, but keep in mind that the game was always about exploration and combat. It's about getting to learn the enemy's attack patterns and eventually dominating them. If they gave us such an ability early, I believe most people would just try to skip it, and therefore, you'd skip out on valuable experience to level up. It's all intentional to give the player the skills they need so that once they do earn the Sonic Dash, they're ready for about anything. It would also be neglectful of me to not include the difficulty. The first several bosses shouldn't really give you that much trouble, even if it's your first time. However, things start to scale up sharply once you arrive at bosses such as Death. This is what we would consider a difficulty spike. Beforehand, the boss's attacks had far greater leeway for mistakes. It starts simple enough, avoid the miniature size followed by the pillars of blue light. It is in the second half where most will fumble. His attack patterns immediately switch up as he'll come at you with a wide charge and a dash attack. These come quickly and seem rather difficult to dodge. However, learning from mistakes is also part of the experience. Learning when they'll attack and how to prepare for it is tantamount for success in any action game. And here, it's no exception. Aria of Sorrow excels at teaching the player how to deal with their more challenging bosses. It's like a rhythm that you need to get the hang of. Once you apply this practice, the remaining bosses would eventually follow suit. Everyone talks about how good it feels to beat a boss you spend time on, but have you ever thought about how good it feels to actually feel like the boss was getting easier to deal with? Oftentimes we quit games because we get bored of them. A common reason stems from the inability to advance through the game no matter how much time you spend on it. Sometimes the mechanics appear unfair and require the strictest of timing and godlike reaction time. Finding fun in challenges is often quite a slippery slope. It's easy to identify extreme difficulty as a positive for certain games, but those types were made with that in mind. The point I'm trying to make is that Aria of Sorrow might have a sudden jump in challenge with the bosses, but it's very much doable. The game's smooth controls and easy to identify patterns makes the learning experience that much better. This, in tandem with the plethora of weapon types and souls, allows for a different experience catered to any player. And once you finish it, you can even try to attempt a speedrun. Castlevania speedruns are quite abundant, especially for the Metroidvanias, because there's so many ways players have broken the game. Of course, if that isn't to your liking, then maybe a certain other mode will. By entering Julius as a name for a save file, you get to play through the entire game as him. He plays just like any Belmont would. Whip as the main weapon, and instead of having a level up or really anything Soma has, he can switch between the classic Castlevania sub-weapons anytime he wants. With the entire map in mind, this easily turns the experience into something completely new. Can you feel it? The immaculate gameplay, the tight level design, the replayability. It's all in one neat package, and it's not just a solid Metroidvania, but a fantastic Castlevania. I cannot stress just how much I recommend playing this game. When I jumped into this game, I figured it was just gonna be an alright time. Just a fun time, might I add. But the more I kept playing, the more I locked in. And the more I locked in, the more I wanted to play. I love this game, and I hope I sold the idea of playing this to all of you watching. Thank you for watching, by the way. If you've enjoyed this video, you know what to do. So with that, I wish you all a wonderful day. Peace.